Karma Worm by Toby True Story, a cyberpunk thriller. Load, Act 1, Chapter 1. This is the source. The worm conquered all that was desired. Its name tempts many to their quick deaths. No one who approaches knows its true size. So many were conquered by one. The living fortress, the plated serpent, the colossus. How have the tables turned upon man when the head of the centipede pierces the clouds? Some were skilled. Some got close to the centipede's head. Their confidence builds, climbing so far up the centipede's body. But at the head awaited its jaws, which bested those who would dare try and take back what the centipede acquired through its might. To this day, it continues to guard and acquire. None are safe. None are sure what it will acquire next. The only warning it gives is the sound of marching in the distance. By then, it's too late, for its length stretches beyond sound, and it's already upon that which it will acquire. And it's always moving. This tale is posted in the most visited forum on the internet. While the internet tends to be a safe place for the most opinionated people on the planet, the consequences of this post prove that safety is actually bait. While reality inspires fiction, the reverse is true as well. There is no actual giant centipede trampling the world, but there are real victims to its jaws. And there is no real way of knowing who's next. There is little warning for its victims. Since this thing was started on the internet, that's where it appears before it attacks. While the story was first posted on that particular forum, victims are always found in random chat rooms or other forums. The victim receives a reply to any post they make in the form of a stream of the letter E running down their screen in a wavy fashion. The centipede's march. It finally ends with a colon, a bracket, and the less than sign, the centipede's head. The final part of the centipede's message is a picture of a yet-to-be identified male holding a bouquet of black roses in his right hand. None of the first victims knew they were about to be murdered after receiving this strange message. However, once word spread of the centipede's story, the symbolism in the message totally fit. So far, there doesn't seem to be any relation between the victims, but the MO of the murder is always the same. 2 Japanese swords piercing the abdomen. One from the front, one from the back. Of course, there are no fingerprints found on the swords, no brand names, and they appear to be identical to all the ones found at the previous murders. After each death, there was little information police could find as to why each person had been killed. Information such as their place of employment, tax records, and birth certificates have been erased from government archives. Police had to rely on IDs found in the victim's home and started questioning friends and relatives from there. What information they received helped little in discovering a motive behind the deaths. There were many theories, one being illegal dealings gone wrong, but that made the centipede seem less like a serial killer picking off random victims. However, illegal dealings weren't entirely dismissed, seeing as these murders were happening all over the country instead of in one area. As anyone would expect as a reaction to the sudden string of deaths, people have used caution, while others have started fan clubs, maybe even hoping to be next on a centipede's list, getting a chance to meet the actual murderers. And, of course, there have been many, many copycats. It's so easy to copy and paste the centipede to any person's forum reply, along with the picture at the end, and this has caused quite the panic. This trend has been reduced to an instant response to any post that has offended someone. In the middle of an online argument, someone copies and pastes the centipede in the picture, And immediately the following replies would be full of nothing but profanity and condemning remarks. People began responding in this way once everyone found out the difference between a fake and the real thing. In the real thing, the letter E would actually appear one right after the other down the screen in real time, whereas a copy and paste maneuver simply posts the whole centipede in the picture all at once. Copycats even tried to mimic the real-time march of the centipede by typing the letter E one right after the other, but each E would be its own post, separated by the post's borders and timestamps. Also, unless they knew how to cover their tracks, every copycat was caught and questioned easily. Among the fans of the centipede, those copycats are actually scorned. New theories appear on the internet and news every day, but it seems that very few people are actually grasping something very crucial to all of this. The centipede story is very peculiar in how it describes the relationship between the centipede and its victims. After all the hype, the victims appear random. However, upon reading it several times, I caught on that this might not exactly be true. The story starts off saying the centipede began to conquer, but then it goes on to say that people have tried to confront it. The story eventually explains they're after something they desire. So I started to think that there was more to the disappearance of each victim's personal information. No one is exactly sure when the information is erased. Are the victims trying to retrieve their information? Could that be what the story is implying? That might as well be the reason why I am where I am right now, and taking my little sister with me. She may be a victim. How fitting we're on a lonely stretch of road tucked in among an endless expanse of forest. The trees on either side feel like they're so tall that they seem to be trying to curve over on top of us. It's true we don't want to be noticed, and funny how there does happen to be places in this world seeming to be set up for those on the run. Stereotypical havens. To make it even more picturesque, there's a road jutting off from this one just up ahead, and it's a dirt road. I haven't seen an intersecting road for miles, and then there's this slight break in the endless trees. The asphalt continues on ahead, a mindless slither crossing miles of pointless existence. And here is the door shutting behind us, erasing us from existence. There's no reaction from my sister when the car jolts from the sudden difference in terrain. We actually feel a door slamming shut behind us, but my sister's gaze ahead never changes. Me, on the other hand, I glance over at her, feeling the jolt as more than the car's shocks having to compensate, and I feel alone in this. This narrow corridor of trees and dirt quickly empties out into a wide open field covered in grass. The trees that once huddled close now stand estranged from us, though they still do their job creating a border. I can see no other way in or out of this field, but that is suddenly the least of my focus. Right in the very center of this field, almost like the bullseye of a target, stands a small house. The dirt road leads right up to the front of the house. Glancing over at my sister for any sign and getting nothing, I take us to the end of our trip. The dirt road widens into an area that is apparently designed as a parking spot. Not even a few seconds after I put the car in park, my sister opens the passenger door and steps out. I'm quick to turn the engine off and unbuckle myself. I open the door and start to call out to her to wait, but the desolate silence of the field sweeps over me, stealing my voice, or rather, my courage. My sister is walking straight up to the front door of the house, unshaken by this quietness. She, at least, didn't leave the passenger side door open for me to close behind her. I open the back door to retrieve the bags of equipment we brought while she stops at the door to the house. Yes, we're running, and not just from a mysterious murderer, but as to why we've come here. I'm hoping she'll eventually explain that to me. Her name is Lucy. My name is Michelle. We're both software engineers at the same company. We work together because she's my little sister, but that's not the only reason. Actually, Lucy is the reason I got involved with computers in the first place. Even though it might seem hard to admit, it's really not. She's the smarter one, but we're a team. It has to be that way. If we were to label each other, she'd be the brains and I'd be the hands, although I've got plenty of brains as well. However, she has a unique brain, and one I'd never be able to compare to, and that's because she's autistic. Her weakness is actually her strength. No matter what others think, to me, and others like me, she's very lucky. So, why would she be a victim? Perhaps it's her occupation. The police revealed little to the public of what they've uncovered on each victim, but info spreads. Most of it is no doubt nothing but false rumors, but the theory that many of the victims had advanced knowledge of computers is pretty valid. This knowledge includes knowing how to create software, maybe on a very amateur level, but in this day and age, the percentage of people knowing how to do things like that is always increasing. By questioning friends and relatives, the police got answers like, "Oh yes, they were very good with computers," but as to what exactly they could do, well, it wasn't like the victims broadcast their abilities, and even if they did, publishing amateur software to the web and such, some close friends might have known, but any of those products were included in the missing information. So the police and the public are stuck with assumptions. But if any of the victims were aware of certain information of theirs missing, and how to go about searching for it in databases no average citizen was even aware of, then perhaps that would be a clue. Still, it's not hard to eventually learn you're the victim of identity theft. But I know a lot of fans out there who won't be satisfied if the centipede is just an identity thief. Yet, there's already no doubt in many minds that there is more to it than that. I stand near Lucy as I study this house. I have already gathered that it is vacant, and has been for a while now. It's a small structure, maybe 40 feet long, 20 feet wide, and I noticed a wooden fence in the back. It's just as tall as the house, and looked like it might have closed in a small portion of the field to claim as a backyard. The front door, an old wooden slab with peeling splinters at the bottom and patches of remaining paint, white paint I think, stands at the very center of the front of the house. To either side, and equal distances apart, are two windows. There are no blinds or curtains, but all I see is darkness behind them. I can't help myself, and I leave Lucy standing there to go peek in through the window on the left. I lean close to the darkened glass, already seeing patches of the room from the light reaching inside, seeing my shadow stealing some of the inner details, but I cup my eyes and place the edge of my hand against the window to peer inside. All I see is a small, square, empty room, a wooden paneled floor caked in dust, walls with old, stained wallpaper peeling off to reveal the wooden panels behind it, and a flaky ceiling. One light fixture is mounted in the center of the ceiling, but there is no bulb. The doorway to the room is opposite the window. It leads out into a narrow hallway, but there's nothing out there I can see, except for the opposite wall. This is all too convenient. I pull away from the window to glance over at Lucy. She's given me the impatient look I expected her to be giving me. She's still standing before the front door. I lower my head and roll my eyes up at her with an embarrassed grin as an apology. Then I mosey on back over to her side. She has made no effort to open the door. I guess she's waiting on me. I don't even think about it and grip the knob. I turn it, and it gives. "It's unlocked," I say. I slowly push the door open, and I hear just how empty the house is, as the ancient whine of the hinges bounce off every peeling surface within. I step inside first. It seems Lucy is waiting on me to do so. The door stands open, forgotten as the secluded desolation from the field outside rushes in ahead of me, filling this space up with emptiness. The first room stretches the entire width of the house. The color of the barren wooden planks running the floor is faded with old dust. The top layer springs to life from the gust, pushing the end of my ponytail around to flap against my cheek. The bag I took from the car hangs off my right shoulder, so I reach up with my left hand to pull my hair back into place. Then I just stare ahead as the wind's presentation subsides. The wallpaper here is just as faded and as tired as that one room I saw through the window before. That narrow hallway leading to it is to the left. On the right side of the room stands a narrow doorway. Just glimpsing through it, I see the skeletal remains of a kitchen, the empty spaces where a stove and refrigerator once stood, making the counter with the sink look out of place against the right wall. There is a smaller window over the sink, because I can see a band of light cutting through the clouds of dust to land on the peeling tiled floor before the doorway. Above this middle room, there is a fixture where once a ceiling fan was mounted, but only a nub of a fastener is left poking downward. The major thing that draws my attention is the large set of sliding glass doors spanning almost the entire length of the back wall. They lead out to that part of the field that is enclosed by the square-shaped wooden fence. Inside it, the yard is laid with cement. In the very center of the slab, a pool lays empty, its dry walls tainted with dark stains. I don't move from where I'm standing to see if there is any more to the backyard. Instead, Lucy steps past me and goes to stand close to the sliding glass doors. She just stands there and looks out. I stare at her a moment, and then my eyes drift over to the far left corner. There is a stack of things huddled together there. Looks like forgotten junk. I see a vacuum cleaner, a broom, a tall rug rolled up and standing behind the rest of the junk. And there is an outdoors chair folded up and leaning against the wall. Some other stuff, but it's not important. I settle on Lucy again. Regardless of us running and hiding, I might be one of the few who can feel confident in there being a lot more to the centipede and not just hoping and believing like all the fans. I just wish it wasn't due to our situation. Any other way would have been fine, but not when it comes to my sister. I think she may be saving herself, though. Like I said before, I'm the hands, she's the brains. There's something she said, something about the centipede murders, something I can't ignore. And neither can others, which is why I had to take her and run. I know personally that Lucy isn't involved with anything illegal. However, because she's so adept at moving freely across the web, she may have stumbled into something the centipede doesn't want revealed, and so now it's after her. But I'm not going to let anything happen to her. Yet, since our running to this house was Lucy's idea, I'm gonna have to understand everything that's going on. I pat the side of the bag hanging from my shoulder. Let's get started, Lucy.